So this video isn't going to be for all of you. It's probably only actually going to be for a small percentage of you. But for those of you that it is for, my hope is that you get a ton of value out of it. If you're interested in buying a condo in the Denver area or just curious about the market and what the process entails, that's what this video is going to be. I am going to go through the process kind of from start to finish and talk about all the different considerations that you need to have when buying a condo. Specifically, how those considerations differ from buying, say, a single family home. What to look out for, what to focus on, what to avoid, that type of thing. My name is Sam. I'm a Denver area realtor, and I would love to be your go-to real estate resource for anything in the Denver area, but especially for buying a condo. I've done it for a number of clients. I'm very familiar with the process, and it is my job to make sure you get the best deal, you know everything that you need to do, and that you don't get screwed, and that is what I aim to do. So for starters, the big difference between buying a condo and buying a house is the HOA, the Homeowners Association. This is not to say that houses don't have HOAs a lot of the time. Much of the time they do, especially in the suburbs, newer communities, planned communities, that type of thing. But condos really always have one. Not 100% of the time, I'm sure there are outliers, but I don't remember, at least in the last year or two, seeing a condo building without an HOA. And HOAs really come with three things: rules, fees, and amenities. And even if you're comparing to an HOA of, say, a community of houses, like in Highlands Ranch or something like that, all of these HOA factors are going to be heightened when you're talking about a condo. The rules typically are going to be stricter, the fees much of the time are higher, and the amenities can often be better. For a condo building, and they come in all shapes and sizes. Okay, this could be a walk-up that's a 1-story or 2-story, where it's just a smaller building and maybe it has 8 or 9 units, or this could be a high-rise, downtown, Cherry Creek, whatever, 13, 14 floors with hundreds of units in there. But no matter the type of building, typically the rules are going to be more intense because it's shared space. Rules in an HOA community for houses, at least you have your own building. In a condo building, you're sharing the building. So they want to make sure no one's living in a way that's not putting their neighbors out because you live so tightly together. Simple stuff like quiet hours, what to do about noise complaints, if there's shared laundry, considerations there, cleaning up after pets on the grounds. But it can go all the way to when you're moving in or moving out, when you're allowed to do it. Do you have to schedule time to move in? I've seen this a lot. Are there fees? That type of thing. It can get much more intense with the rules, which isn't always a bad thing. The important thing to keep in mind is with any HOA, these rules, while they may seem annoying at times, are there to make your experience as a resident better. And as part of the HOA, there are fees that come along with that, and fees with condo buildings tend to be higher because not only are you paying for whatever amenities you're getting, you're also paying for the building. Because you don't own the building, you own a little part of the building, whichever part is your unit. But in a single family home, you're responsible for the maintenance of the building. In a condo building, everyone who lives there is responsible, but also nobody is. And these are typically much bigger buildings, and the bigger the building, the more expensive the maintenance is. So how do they handle that? Well, the maintenance costs are shared with all the residents. And so that's why you'll typically see HOAs, monthly fees when it comes to condos. It can be as low as $200, but often in the $300, $400s, even $500, $600 a month, depending on the size of your unit and depending on the building. But those fees don't just cover the maintenance, obviously, they cover any sort of amenities you get. A lot of the time they'll cover utilities too. And this is why it's important to really understand the type of HOA at the condo building you're considering buying into, because they're not all created equal. And I always say, if you're gonna be paying an HOA fee, especially a higher one, let's say $450 a month for a 1-bedroom condo, that's a significant extra expense over your mortgage and your taxes and your insurance and all that stuff. But if you're gonna be paying that, well, at least I would hope that you're getting a fair amount for that. So in addition to the things we already discussed, HOA fees obviously will cover any sort of community amenities, even if that's just a club room where you can go hang out and sit down and work on your laptop, or maybe it's a pool. Oftentimes newer buildings will have workout facilities, stuff like that. And if you have all those things and you're still paying this monthly fee, well, but if you're using them, think how much you'd pay for a pool membership, a membership to a gym. Now you're just getting them at home, so you're paying for them in a different way. So if you look at it that way, it's not too bad. If you're paying $500 a month for HOA fees and you don't get anything, you get trash pickup and sewer, and that's basically it. That's something I usually advise people to take a hard look at, maybe look somewhere else, because that's a lot of money. That money isn't doing anything for you. It's not building any equity like your mortgages, for example. It's just money you're paying every month. And if you're paying it for nothing, it's not really a great deal. So other things that can be covered by HOA fees are, yes, trash, sewer, water. A lot of the time, electricity or gas will be covered, which is great because that's a utility you'd have to pay otherwise. Sometimes even cable and internet are included. If there's a rooftop patio, if there's a place to watch the game, I don't know, whatever it is, any of those things that are included as part of life in this condo building, that will be part of your HOA fees. So if you're paying an HOA, just make sure you're getting something for it. Next big thing that stands out to me, the difference between buying a condo and buying a house, as you probably know if you're at this point, it's much lower maintenance. That's the trade-off. Okay, so you don't get a yard, but you also don't have to take care of the yard. If you go on vacation, you don't need to ask somebody to drive by the house and make sure everything's good. You don't have to worry about all these different things that come with buying a house because you just bought a part of a building. And that building kind of runs on its own whether you're there or not. Don't got to worry about pipes freezing. It is a much lower maintenance way to live. It says, I travel a lot maybe, or I just want to be able to pick up and leave whenever I want and not really worry about it. Condo life sounds pretty good. Other big difference is price. Not always, but on average, buying a condo is going to be cheaper than buying a house. Obviously, this is based on a number of factors. Obviously, the average square footage of a condo in Denver is going to be smaller than the average square footage of a house. That's just how they are. They're made to be smaller living spaces. But the point is, you're going to, on average, pay less money. Get into home ownership buying a condo than you would if you're buying a house. For example, this is just one way to look at it, but I have the latest Denver Metro Association of Realtors report here, and this market overview page is a whole bunch of data, so we won't get too crazy here, but if you look, this has everything at the top, then breaks it down into detached or attached. Detached is family homes. Attached can include townhouses and duplexes like that too, so it's not just condos, but we're just going to compare these two categories. So for the most previous month on record, the median close price for a detached property, a house, is $659,000, almost $660,000, and the median close price for an attached property is $425,000. Obviously, as I said, based on a lot of different factors, but just looking at the data, if you want to buy a home, that's a lot cheaper as far as median price. Okay, so you've decided you're a condo person. You want to look into buying a condominium. What are the things you need to consider going into the process? The first thing I'd say is old versus new. Okay, whether you want to be in a building that's older or something that's newer or brand new. The reason I bring this up is because we have a healthy mix of both in Denver. A lot of the super central neighborhoods have more older condo buildings. They can be very, very charming. A lot of the time they can be cheaper than the new ones. So you're in a central kind of historic location. It's a super cool building. They don't typically build buildings as cool as they used to, at least in some regards, brick and the what have you. There are some of them. There are some cool new buildings, but much of the time in older buildings, you will have to pay less for the price of the condo. However, there are trade-offs. Number one, obviously things aren't going to be as new. If you like a sleek, urban, real modern vibe, that's going to be a newer building. And number two, anyone who's bought anything old or before knows older something is, well, it may have charm and may be cool, the more potential problems come with it. And that's something to keep in mind when looking at a condo, especially if you're going to be buying in a building that's 50, 60 years old. There's nothing wrong with that. You'll just want to do your due diligence looking into that building, making sure everything is good, making sure it doesn't have any major problems that may bring up a special assessment. Special assessment is something that happens where, say, the entire plumbing system breaks in a building and now they have this huge problem they have to pay for. What are they going to do? Well, they're going to do a special assessment, i.e. saying, hey, we need a one-time payment from all of the residents of the building to fix this problem. Older building, more potential for problems. Also, the age of the building can have an impact on how much you're paying monthly in HOA fees. If it's a brand new building with all the amenities, that can be a lot. I've seen them go over $1,000 a month just in HOA fees for some of the high ticket new builds with all of the amenities, all the bells and whistles. Sometimes in older buildings, they won't have as much. So if you're looking for something that you're going to say, listen, I don't care about all that stuff. I just don't want to pay a bunch every month. Maybe an older building is the way to go. Another thing to consider is parking, because you're not going to have your own driveway. You're not going to have your own garage. You may have a parking spot in a garage, but it's something to keep keep in mind, if you're buying a condo in central Denver, say in Cap Hill, where parking is notoriously difficult, and you do not have a parking spot that comes as part of the unit, that's going to make your life much more complicated. Keep in mind, what parking does it come with? When you have a car, unless you want to be super, super urban and no car, just everything on foot, scooter or whatever, you don't have to worry about this at all. But if you do have a car, look for at least one off-street parking space. Some of the newer, better buildings will have garage parking. Some of them will have 2 spaces. Oftentimes there's visitor parking because you got to think about the people who are going to be visiting you, not just you. Do you want them to have to fight for a spot every time they come to see you? If they have to do that, are they going to come to see you? How much do they like you? Let's be honest. Parking is worth considering. Also a consideration, does the building allow rentals? And if so, for what period of time? Remember the rules back there? Well, this is one of them. So this really comes up a lot when we talk about short-term rentals. I want to Airbnb my property. Short-term rentals, 30 days or less. A lot of people will say, I want to buy an investment property and I want to use it as an Airbnb. Getting a condo, typically cheaper than getting a house, so maybe I'll look that direction. I can get a sweet Denver condo that people want to come and visit. As you know, if you've watched some of my other videos, Denver has a primary residence law as far as being able to Airbnb your property, meaning you have to live there if you want to rent it out Airbnb, VRBO, Verbo basis. So again, great. Okay, I can do that. It'll be my primary residence, but I like to travel a lot. You know, sometimes I work remotely, so I want to be gone for months at a time. I'll just be able to use it as an Airbnb then and make a lot of money. Maybe, but probably not. Because the vast majority of condo HOAs that I have seen do not allow, they simply say you cannot rent your property for less than a period of 30 days. Most of them are 6 months or more. The reasoning basically is they just don't want a revolving door of people coming and going for the reasons we talked about before. That can be a disturbance to the other residents. So very important to keep in mind. You're probably not going to be allowed to use your condo as a short-term rental. You may, however, be able to use it as a mid-term rental. Say they just disallow anything 30 days or less, but you can still rent it out for a month, 3 months, 6 months at a time. There's still a very valuable market for that. Some will say you can't use this as a rental at all. We don't want to do rentals. We only want owners here. So obviously that changes things. Just keep in mind what you're thinking about doing with the property as you're buying the property. The other thing that comes with condos that often doesn't come with single family houses are transfer fees. This is another HOA thing. These are a one-time payment that you will have to pay when you purchase the property. Usually they're in the hundreds rather than thousands of dollars. So when we're talking about a transaction like this, it's kind of a drop in the bucket. I won't go too far into it for that reason. Just keep in mind that there may be additional fees when buying the home. Okay, so those are a lot of the considerations. Next, we're going to go into different areas of town. I'm actually going to pull up a map here and we're going to look at different areas to consider based on what you want. After that, we'll touch on the process from contract to closing, how you actually buy a condo, and we'll answer some of these questions. Hey, Sam, you keep telling me to look into the HOA, and how do I do that? How do I figure all that stuff out? That will be in that process. Okay, so I have the MLS pulled up here, and I just drew a big circle around basically the 470 corridor, the Denver metro area, because that's all I want to look at. And we have to zoom in a little bit to see where all the listings actually are. I guess we have to zoom in a lot. I'm looking at central Denver right now, but you're going to see all these green ones. These are current condo listings. That's all I'm looking at is condos right now. And so you're seeing, as you would assume, there's a concentration downtown and central Denver. If you go out even to Edgewater, Wheat Ridge, there's some, but there's not a lot. And we go downtown. Going southeast Denver into Aurora, there are a fair amount of condos. But, Hampton South, there's a concentration. There's some out here, but it gets few and far between the farther out we go. Up here in Westminster, Nevada, you're seeing a handful. So it really is a central thing. And for that reason, I'm just going to look at the city of Denver here. We're not going to look at all the suburbs and stuff like that. If you want to buy a condo in the suburbs, you have the opportunity. There's not as many options, but that's kind of a different conversation. Right now, let's just take a look at Denver and some of the areas. So basically, there's a handful of areas that are going to be the big condo hotspots in Denver. Number one, downtown, Lodo, as it were. So that's going to be this area here, Union Station, Central Business District, and everything around 16th Street Mall, all the way kind of to Ballpark. I'm going to call that the downtown Lodo area. There's a lot here. They're typically newer buildings, or at least updated buildings. Some more affordable. Here's a 1-bed, 1-bath for $569. That's been on the market for a long time, since January. Pull it up here. This has got that exposed brick loft style. I love this. I think this is great, actually. $569, they haven't dropped the price once, and it's been on for a half year. 1 bed, 1 bath, 1,000 square feet, right in the heart of downtown. $569, because it hasn't sold, the price is probably a little high. Just an idea of what you're getting. It can go from that to this listing here on Wincoop, listed for $1.7 million, 3,000 square feet, 2 bed, 3 bath. Kind of the other end of the spectrum, also been on the market a long time, but you see it's a real big place. It's also got the brick downtown loft vibe. Love those wood beams. It's right across the street from Union Station. It is location, location, location. And the downtown market right now is actually getting crushed. Downtown condo market is tough and has been since COVID. We'll see what happens. I think there's some good opportunities there. But anyway, that's downtown. If you want to go across the river and just across I-25, you can hop over to Lohi. There's not too many of them showing up right now because I probably have to type in townhouse or multifamily because there's some different classifications that people don't always get right in the MLS. But Lohi has a lot of condos too. It does have some newer, sleek, flashier buildings, but there's also a lot of older buildings too. We're checking this one out right now. Kind of what I was talking about before. This is not a high rise. This is a building with a handful of units, tastefully done, looks nice, listed for $499 small, 581 square feet, 2 beds though, 1 bath, in a great location. The association, $150 monthly, doesn't come with much because it's a small building. There's not much to it. That's the type of thing you can get in Lohi. If we just go a few blocks over to 29th, also in Lohi, you see this one. It is a 2 bed, 2 bath listed for $625. This is newer to the market, 1,100 square feet. You see it's a modern building, modern style condo, nice. So a little bit of yin and yang there. This is the type of thing you'll see in Lohi as well. Prices in Lohi are not doing anyone any favors, but it's a very great location, very cool, very close to downtown and kind of everything else. The most affordable place to buy a condo in Denver, in my opinion, is Cap Hill. A lot of older buildings, so keep that in mind. Parking, as I mentioned, is not great, but here's a 2 bed, 2 bath for under $500, and it looks fine. Could use some updates. Kitchen probably could use a refresh, but Cap Hill, very walkable, very close to everything. Smaller, older buildings, but lots of charm, and one of the most affordable parts of Denver and Mass. Beyond that, you can head over to City Park. Basically, just keep going east, and Cheeseman Park. Cheeseman Park is one of my favorite places to look for condos. Again, older buildings. This one could use a little love. It's got great views, and there's a lot of condo buildings on the park or very close to the park, so that's a huge plus. This one was listed at $1 million, came down to $850. 2 bed, 2 bath. They're probably still high. Here's one. HOA fee, $701 monthly. Okay, that's what I was talking about. Now, what you're getting is a lot: heat, insurance, maintenance, security, sewer, trash, water, elevators, fitness center, parking, pool. You're getting a lot. So if you're gonna pay $700, that's still a higher one, but at least you're getting a lot of stuff. For a more affordable look at the Cheeseman area, here is one that's a few blocks from the park on Lafayette. Does not have professional photos, but it seems to be a perfectly nice, cozy condo, listed at $415. 800 square feet, 1 bed, 1 bath. $415 for 1 bed in a good location. Not bad. You're not getting a house for that much. Those are the main areas to focus on in central Denver. Then you can also come down to Alamo Placita and Spear. There's not much in Wash Park, but Cherry Creek is the other one if you have lots of money. Some of the highest real estate prices in town, the state, in the region, but it is awesome. Super walkable, super clean, great neighborhood. Let's take a peek at this one just for fun. They're on 155 Steel Street, listed at a cool $2 million, 1,600 square feet, 2 bed, 3 bath. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, I know this building. You're seeing it. Look at the lobby. Very Cherry Creeky. It's nice. It's nothing insane, but it's nice. So you're paying for that. You're paying for the location. $2 million bucks. HOA monthly, over $1,100 bucks. It does have a pool. It does have parking. We'd want to look into it a little bit more. We're going to pay that much, which we'll go into in a little bit. What are we looking into? How are we looking into those HOA documents and rules and fees and all that stuff? So those are the areas to consider. If you're rich, maybe you want to look at Cherry Creek. If you're a normal person, Cap Hill, Cheeseman, good option. So what's the process? Okay, Sam, I am ready. I want to buy a condo. What do we do? What are we going to do? I'm going to take you through that real quick. I'm not going to go into the whole thing, the whole presentation or conversation I'd have with someone who actually said those things and was sitting across from me, but I'll give you the abridged version so I don't waste your time, but I give you an idea of how it goes. Number one, I get you set up on an MLS auto search where it sends these listings to you automatically, assuming they meet your criteria. I'm not going to send you something for $3 million if you don't want to spend $3 million. Then you see something you like and you text me, call me, email me, whatever, and say, hey, this one looks cool. What are your thoughts? and or I would like to see it. We schedule a showing, or maybe we take a Saturday morning and do a lot of showings. We schedule 3, 4, 5 of these back to back and get an idea of what you really like. We walk through the condo, obviously. We walk around the grounds. We get an idea of the area. We check out the amenities. Showing condos is fun. You get to go see like pools. Sometimes there's like a pool table, all the stuff they have. A lot of them have good views. I've seen plenty of rooftop pools or rooftop workout facilities, which is awesome. Get mountain views while you're working out. And then you find the one you want and it's time to make an offer. Okay, then we write an offer. So I actually pulled up here. This is CTME. This is our offer software that we use. So I'm not going to show you anyone's contract, but I just have a test buyer. So I just want to show you what this looks like so you get an idea of a couple things we're looking at. You put in all the property information, you put in the buyers, blah, blah, blah. This section here, we look at inclusions, and I put in any inclusions that we want to make sure that are included in the MLS. We want to make sure are included in the sale as part of the sale. I'll include all of the appliances in there, kitchen, fridge, dishwasher, all that stuff. We specifically state in the contract which parking and storage facilities convey as part of this deal. So I specifically say in the contract, parking space 11B, storage space 24, whatever it is, to make sure contractually you are taking ownership of those things as part of this sale. Then we come down to the dates and deadlines, and this is where we're going to get into some of the things that we talked about before. So I just have a dating template here. I'm just going to go and insert these as if we were drawing up a contract to buy something today when I'm recording this. The first date is the alternative earnest money deadline. That's when you're going to deliver your earnest money check. If you haven't gone through the process before, here's what earnest money is. It is a check, or wire, you can wire too, but that you deliver typically about 3 days after the contract gets accepted. So we write the contract, we submit it, they say, yes, this is beautiful, this is the perfect offer, Sam, you wrote this contract so well, we're going to accept it. The sellers sign it, we are now under contract to buy the home. Between contract and close is typically about 30 days. And in that time, there are a number of dates and deadlines that we and the sellers have to meet to make the contract continue going on. The truth is, in Colorado, real estate contracts are written in a very buyer-friendly way. So as part of these dates and deadlines, there are a lot of outs for the buyer that if you see something you don't like in terms of inspection, appraisal, HOA, you're able to, assuming you do it in a timely fashion, terminate the contract, walk away without losing any money or anything. It's a good deal for buyers. So the first of those dates and deadlines is the earnest money deadline. That's when you'll deliver this check. Earnest money is typically 1 to 2% of the purchase price. It's set by the seller. So let's say you're buying a $500,000 condo in Cheeseman Park, found a great spot. You deliver a check or a wire for $5,000 a few days after we go under contract to the title company who's handling the closing. They hang on to it, put it in escrow, and it sits there until we close. Once we close, that money gets applied to your closing costs. Now, the thing about earnest money, if for some reason you don't abide by these dates and deadlines, if you say, we go through all of our inspection dates and then you say, well, I didn't like how the water heater was that way, well after our right to terminate, once that date is already passed. But if you say, you know what, I know the date is passed, but I still don't like the water heater, I want to terminate based on that, you would lose that earnest money. That seller would get to keep that earnest money basically for those troubles because you didn't perform on your end of the contract. Now, when we do this, that's never gonna happen. You're never gonna miss any of those dates. We're gonna make sure to be timely on all this stuff so you don't lose that earnest money. But that's the sellers, since they don't really have any too much control once we go under contract, that is the seller's peace of mind that, oh, if this person just up and disappears when I went through all this trouble to sell this house to them and doesn't show up at closing, skip town, now that was a huge pain. Now I got to go back on the market and everything, but I do get to keep their $5,000 for my troubles. That's earnest money. That's the first thing. There's all these title deadlines. Here's the big one, the association documents deadline and association documents termination deadline. So there is a deadline, in this case, 7/11, just say, great number, for the seller to deliver us all of the association documents, every document associated with the HOA, so that you, the buyer, can review them and make sure you're okay with what they say about painting your walls and having a dog and all that different HOA stuff. And then the termination deadline is the deadline by which time you must terminate if you are to do so for cause and still get your earnest money back. I mean, you want to terminate. You probably don't, because you probably know kind of what's going on into this. But let's say something crazy comes out. Let's say you have a cat and you love that cat and that cat is kind of like your child. And you get the association documents and it says in the covenants, no cats allowed. In fact, we hate cats in this building. We don't even want to think about cats and you cannot have a cat. Well, that's not going to work. This is not an arrangement that's going to work. So you have until that association negotiation documents, termination deadline to say, you know what, need my cat, not going to work out, I'm going to terminate. Seller says, okay, I get it. And the title company says, here's your earnest money check back. Good luck with your cat. There are all kinds of other deadlines. Deadlines about the new loan, the loan that you're applying for, deadlines for the appraisal, for a survey, which don't really apply to condos most of the time. Inspection deadlines, deadlines that you must have the inspection done and submit your objection if there's going to be one. We'll always want to do a home inspection. Even if it's condos, you don't have to worry about as much. You don't have to worry about foundation or roof or anything like that, but you still want to get an inspection, and then you have the opportunity to submit an objection, and there's a date and deadline by which time we must come to a resolution about those objections, i.e. anything we're asking the seller to cover as part of the inspection. Hey, the faucet doesn't work. Fix the faucet, please. We come to a resolution by that deadline, or the contract terminates automatically. That probably won't happen. We come to a resolution, everything's good, we move on. And then the last deadline, of course, is closing date. Closing date and then possession date. This is when we say we're going to close, and this is when the buyer will take possession of the property, and now it's theirs. Typically, those happen on the same day. We close. We go to closing, we go to a title company, you sign a whole bunch of documents, so many that your hand gets cramped, okay? But you don't care because you're purchasing this condo, and it's a great deal. We've gone through inspection, we've gone through appraisal, everything looks good. There's no cat provision in the HOA. Everything is awesome. I should probably say dog. I feel like there's more dog people, at least my people. I'm a dog guy. I have nothing against cats, but I will say every time I've been in a situation where a friend has a cat, the cat waits till it's alone with me and attacks me. I'm not kidding you. This has happened like 4 or 5 times. At this point, it's like it's my fault, but I digress. We close, we have champagne, everybody's happy, you get to move into your new condo. And that's the deal. I'm not gonna go through this whole contract because as you can see, it's a lot. Much of it is just standard language that's part of every real estate contract. Much of it is me filling in blanks based on the specifics to this particular transaction. But you sign your name at the bottom. I send it to the sellers. The sellers say, yes, you guys are great. The sellers sign 2. We have a binding contract. You buy this condo, or you at least have the right to buy this condo between now and roughly 30 days, assuming everything else checks out. Congratulations, you're now a homeowner. That's the deal. I hope this was helpful. If this is something you are considering, please do reach out. I would love to at least have the conversation with you and start these preliminary things in motion if the day comes that you want to buy a condo. Because it is a great way to get into homeownership and not have to spend a crap load of money. It's still a lot of money. Everything's still a lot of money, but it's an easier way to get in and start building equity rather than paying rent. And sometimes you get a pool. Let me know with questions below. Otherwise, I love you. Talk soon.